unprecedented in human history. But more importantly to me, what are the relevance of Chinese way of developing economy for other economies, including ASEAN countries? And today, I argue U.S. economy is predominantly innovation-driven, and Chinese one has been more disruption-driven. Actually, the Chinese way developing economy has high degree relevance for many emerging markets, including Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia. Also has relevance for some advanced economies like Japan, which is good in innovations, but has not been doing well in generating new companies, newly minted billionaires, and unicorns. So in my argument, they have not performed well in generating economic disruptions. So globally, we need to bring the Chinese element and American element together to serve the global community better. You know, since 1979, when Biz-Matching studies neoliberalism, President Reagan followed much of that. In 1981, President Reagan was a big fan of this neoliberalism initiated by Biz-Matching. And also, this neoliberalism also shaped the reform and opening up in China the fundamental way. I argue China-US have embraced this new market capitalism better than any other economies on earth. That's one reason why these two economies, China and the US, have made a fundamental contribution to global economic growth. Since 1979, the global GDP was increased more than 10 times. The trade, the wealth creation, as well as poverty elevation in China and beyond. Arguably, the progress since 1979 has been unprecedented. So these are the beauties of neoliberalism or capitalism. You know. But look at the contribution from China, the United States. From 1979 to 2023, US contributed 26%. China contributed 18.2% to global economic growth. But if you look at more recently, from 2013 to 2021, China contributed 38.6% global economic growth. US, about 19%. G7 countries together as about 26%. So more than 50% of the global economic growth since 2013 were contributed by China and the United States. We did well because market capitalism, okay? But of course, these two countries having the most serious income wealth inequalities as well. Story number one, US has been predominantly innovation driven. In the US, if you don't innovate, you have difficulty making any serious money. The good reason for that, US has been a dominating contributor in science advancement. Look at number of economic laureates in science. US share was about 50% historically, but US share was increased to about 60% since year 2000. US has been dominating in making this contribution. Look at the economic science, you know, and 52 Nobel economic laureate since year 2000. US contributed 49 out of 52. Story is US has been dominating in contributing in this regard. You look at Turing Award, US institutions contribute 66.2%. So US will be dominating in AI development. And then with not only, you know, the rise of new chips, NVIDIA and AMD, which is falling, and then the US really dominates in this regard. You see the reason why US continue to be a dominating contributor in innovations. Not only is power, in scientific discovery, but also in terms of its openness, inclusivity. Look at this number. 500 top companies in the US, 108 are created by new immigrants. That amazing. We don't have a single one in China, single one. Okay. And then another 121 by descendants of the new immigrants. So that's how open the American system is. We are far behind in that regard. So, and also US has been the only country which has been able to generate what I call the groundbreaking innovations. China will be the second one. No company like this from Europe, from Japan. A TikTok company created by alumni of our school. In my definition, it's the first groundbreaking innovation from China. China will have more to come. You see the rise of Temu, a subsidiary of PDD, founder of PDD also of alumni. So they're doing awfully well in the United States. First time ever, the foreign companies, like at TikTok, look at Temu, a subsidiary of PDD, and the Shein. Finally, there are companies, as example, the foreign companies come to the United States, play American football and winning. In your market, play your game and winning. So Americans should be more self-confident, less self-interest. Be proud of this progress, this innovation from China. Don't tell me the success of TikTok, Temu, or Shein are from subsidies. Absolutely not. Innovation. China will be the second country to be able to generate groundbreaking innovations after the United States. Okay. Next generation of groundbreaking innovations possible. And I wrote a couple of articles on this issue in terms of global relevance of Chinese way. I don't call it Chinese model. I call it Chinese way of developing the economy. One thing I have discovered is this economic disruption. Another thing I've discovered is this clustering of industries, which I will share with you maybe later in the future. But in terms of measuring economic disruption, I use 3 data sets. Number 1, newly emerged global Fortune 500 companies. Number 2, how many newly minted billionaires. Number 3, number of unicorn companies. 3 data sets. Very reliable, very objective. Look at China. China, global Fortune 500 company was 11. The first year, Fortune collecting the data. We had 11 to begin with. Now we have 123. For 2 years, the number exceeded that of the United States. Okay, now US has 139. China has 123. So look at India. India had 1 to begin with. Now they have 9. China outperformed India by far. India has now been able to generate economic disruptions the way I have argued. That's one of the reasons for this performance differences between China and India. Remember, 1978, India's GDP per capita was 25% higher than China. India was 25% better in 1978. Today, we're more than 5 times better than India. One of the differences, India has not been able to generate economic disruption. India, in this regard, needs to learn from China. This is the Fortune global companies. And look at the billionaires. Again, Forbes started to collect this data 2001. We only had 1 billionaire on the list. Rong family, Rong family, Rong Shi Jiazhu, Now we had, let's jump out of this. Number of billionaires, okay. We had 1 to begin with. Now we have 406. Well, last 2 years, we lost 1/3 of them. You look at 2021, we had 626 billionaires on the Forbes list. So we were number one in that regard in terms of, newly minted billionaires. The last 2 years, China didn't do well. Actually, China economically didn't do well. Used to be like China GDP was 70% of US. As last quarter, only 61%. We didn't do well economically for the past 2 years. You look at every measure of economic performance, including Forbes billionaire. So we peaked 2 years ago, 646, coming down to 406. You look at this table. Is this beautiful? Look at the richest people in China, 10 richest people in China. Only one person stayed in the top 10. All other people disappear. That's also a measure of disruption. Oh, it's always new kids on the block. The one reason I started 2015 new unicorn program was for this. I always want to generate new generation Alibaba, Tencent, JD.com, not only in China, but also globally. We have succeeded. You see the rise of TikTok. You see the rise of Temu, Pinduoduo. Their success has gone way beyond China. Alibaba, Tencent success, predominantly China success. But look at the new generation. They compete so well in the US market as well. This whole new generation, I call it new money, doing awfully well. And let me just, so the key story is China has been more disruption to this, and Chinese way, far more relevant for emerging market. I go over this quickly. Chinese business model replicated in India, doing so well. We're doing well in Indonesia, our business model. Learn to walk first before you learn how to run. Okay, don't feel bad about imitation. Become a billionaire first. That's the money innovations, okay? And we're doing also well, the bunch of examples in Indonesia, okay, the relevant Chinese model. And the one I serve as independent director, doing well in that regard. And in Africa market. Okay. And in Mexico, many examples. Okay. So the Chinese business model, so much relevant for many emerging economies, okay? And to follow up on this alternative energy, usually US innovate, Chinese scaling up. By many sectors, China doing so well in innovation, including many alternative energy, clean energy, solar, bio, hydro. So I was talking to a collaboration program with Stanford. I said, look, our innovation as good as yours, even better than yours now, okay? Not only scaling up, China's second to none. So China, this is alternative energy, new trials, EVs, the batteries, the solar, all of that. And also, we have the largest drone company on Earth, okay? And 5G, Huawei is doing well in technology, innovations, And of course, with the rise of the three companies I was talking about in the US market. So in light of this, I've been working on this unicorn systems since 2015. Again, that's the first ever, any business school doing that. I always want to be a Google, Amazon, and I want to be the very first to do that. And then I create a global ecosystem to include many, many partners. We did well in China, and I go over that briefly. Since 2015, so innovation, 2016. So we have 151 founders, co-founders of unicorns studying our program. That's bigger than any school globally. Okay, we're the first one. Some of the very famous alum of ours. Maybe Jack Ma is most famous, but the PBB, the top right corner, is the founder of PBB, Pinduoduo, is Timu, the CEO of Xiaomi, one of the founders, 4 founders of Tencent. So we got China covered in that regard, And then we have 3 foreign companies studying our program. 1 Portugal, 2 from New York, And for the past 2 years, I expand this ecosystem to be a global one. The first one, UAE, Singapore, with Korea, SME, Ministry, then Luxury Management in Milan, Stanford Engineering, and Africa with UNESCO. This year, we had the first one with Columbia Engineering, the second one, UC San Diego, Biotech. The third one, the French, the top business school in France, luxury management, Luxury management, not luxury sector. I call it luxury thinking. I don't like the Chinese way, selling everything lower prices. Pinduoduo, the same thing. Even lower prices, Alibaba, which is fine. But on the more and more Chinese companies, many companies from Asia learn how to sell the higher prices. I have a tremendous amount of respect for the French, for the Italians. Everything they do, they started, they want to sell the higher prices by design, by branding. We need to learn from them in that regard. Okay, not only the tech innovations. So I did one in France. Of course, the Stanford Engineering again, come up in a few days, all AI, And then next year, Sydney, University of Sydney. And then DC, Johns Hopkins, healthcare. So this is what I call the new generation of unicorns, We span the globe, 5 continents, I hope we can do one in Thailand, in Malaysia one day, okay? And so we have luxury thinking module, we have life science, biotech, and we have engineering, deep tech from Stanford Engineering, Berkeley, Columbia. And we have sectors focused on sustainability. Next year, CKGSC and Columbia University will host our first unicorn training program in GCC, either UAE or Saudi, on smart city and green transformation, alternative energy. So this is what I call global ecosystem for next generation unicorns. Maybe the first time ever, this whole system designed by a school from Asia, led by Asia, but all the top universities, so many of them, joining our ecosystem, want to do something really meaningful globally. Bring the talents of innovation from the United States, bring the unrivaled ability of scaling up from China, to share that globally, to do a global good. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sebin Farid, Dean of Shanghai Graduate School of Business or CKGSC, Professor of China Business and Globalization at CKGSC.